Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint. Thank you very, very much for being here. So, there's been kind of a lot going on with 45 lately, right? So, I wanted to take a look and see how he's doing. So, some of the things that one would hope are registering with him. Um, you may or may not have heard that there was recently the BRICS countries got together and had a summit. So BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China. But these are the other countries that have joined. South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, uh, UAE, United, Indonesia. So this is part of why they've come together. They're trying to create like a block that creates within each other sort of thing. Um, but the thing that has, Trump upset is that they're looking to trade, but not using the American dollar as the standard, but trade within their own country's currency. So this is a problem, right? Because the US dollar has been sort of the gold standard for a really, really long time. And as Trump continues to act out, he's weakening everything. Now, Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is getting static because Trump wants him to, I think it's lower interest rates or something. And he's not doing it. And he's not doing it for a really good reason. But that has nothing to do with the way, Trump processes information. So that's got him all bent out of shape. And the other thing that I don't know if anybody's actually telling him, but probably somebody should. Again, particularly here in Canada, that boycott continues. And, some people think it'll be temporary. Some people think it will last as long as, who is in office. I would actually expand that to that entire political party having any clout. And some people think it's just going to last forever because you sort of made your bed, now you need to sleep in it. But some of the things that are happening are getting sort of boycotted and they're being felt. So, Levi's, Nike, Disney, Netflix. And one of the ones that should have not only him concerned, but DeSantis concerned, is they have lost so far $750 million. So $750 million in tourist money, in Canadian tourist money. It makes you wonder what it's going to take, But again, you just have a group of people that are so hell bent on doing whatever he wants that I remember a couple of years ago, I made a comment on this channel and I said, I don't understand why those Christians are putting up with things that hurt them. By extension, Republicans. And I don't know who it was, but, thank you, who just sent a comment back and said, because the prejudice is so strong that as long as they can't have it, then we will sacrifice it too, just to make sure they can't have it. And I guess maybe that mentality still exists, unfortunately. Um, he's not being treated well, right? Other countries are sort of already laughing at him. The whole tariff thing has honestly, I mean, he's using his bully pulpit, right? And he's threatening everybody all over the place, but then he rescinds the threat, right? And then he creates another threat, and it just goes back and on with him. So what the hell is going on with him behind the scenes? Because you know what? There have to be people in his orbit who are concerned, scared, terrified. Let's find out how he's doing. I'm going to channel this. All right, Spirit, can we get a look-see at how Trump is doing behind the scenes? So, and let's not forget that Trump has um, really pulled back on his public appearances. I suspect part of that is because he's not feeling well. He's not getting the kind of receptions that he'd like. Um, and I think in some ways, the people around him are trying to limit or minimize his exposure. So, Spirit, do tell what's going on. Okay. Um, I've been allowed to step into his energy, and I almost feel like woozy and lightheaded, not grounded. So I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know whether that's, a heart issue, um, just an overall fatigue and weakness, but basically that strength and that stamina um, have really, really diminished, which is part of the reason why he's become so aggressive when he is out in public, because he has to still convince himself that he is strong, and he's the strongest guy out there. And it's not really working for him, because other countries, listen, this is the thing, they're going to try to negotiate as best they can, but they have to be really mindful, whether they want to be or not, that he considers himself this absolutely brilliant negotiator. And the real truth is that he's not. In the past, he was able, to bully and browbeat people into complying. And somehow that got turned around to what an amazing negotiator you are. But he's not. And when he gets in the ring with people who really know how to negotiate, he flounders. The more he flounders, the more bombastic he gets, which, aside from if there's anything else going on, it's internally depleting that energy, right? I mean, you can't stay in that high adrenaline space indefinitely. The body starts to say, whoa, that's enough, buddy, settle down. So that's part of what's going on, is just an overall physical weakening that he is aware of. And that just makes him become even more um, in your face. It's also interesting, they're saying that he is trying to negotiate using Truth Social. Now, countries do not negotiate over tweets. Okay. They don't negotiate over those kinds of conversations or even those kinds of threats. So what he's doing is, yeah, he's alerting those other countries, but mostly he's playing to his followers so that they continue to receive the information that he is strong, he is tough, he's taking care of their best interest, even though he doesn't understand how tariffs work. And they're buying it. It's just that simple. They just are buying it because they're not getting any information that balances what they're hearing. So they only hear one thing, which is he's brilliant, he's doing the best job he can for the country, he's amazing, et cetera, which of course feeds right into his ego. The more, I don't know how True Social works. Really, it's a bad name for the thing, right? But anyways, like, I don't know if there's like likes or hearts or whatever there is, but the more of them he gets, the more it puffs him up. And again, makes him feel, strong and dominant and helps him to block out the way he believes he is being mistreated by other countries. When he doesn't get his way or he recognizes that he's losing his belief that he has the upper hand, that is when you start getting people be called nasty and all of those other, doing a terrible job, that kind of nonsense, because what he's doing is he's pulling attention away from whatever that situation is. And everybody all of a sudden is now looking at the fact, oh, wait a minute, he's calling that person nasty. Let's talk about that on all the news channels for at least 12 hours. And then nobody's paying attention to what isn't working. I mean, this is the person who, like, 90 deals in 90 days. He doesn't have 88 of them or something. They're not there. And the more he flounders, the more other countries are simply not taking him seriously. It's now sort of, not everybody buying into it, but there's sort of a low energy feeling that we are watching, the death of an empire. Because he's doing such an amazing job of running the country into the ground. They're showing me that there's a lot of screaming, a lot of swearing, a lot of banging his fists on the table. He's not doing very well in terms of processing information, so cognitive skills seem to be a bit iffy. And honestly, in his heart, it's so full of revenge and rage that there truly isn't room for anything else. I don't know if any of you caught it, but he was doing a speech somewhere or another, and he went off on this tangent, right? And he was talking about the nickname that he's given Melania. And the nickname is First Lady. That's her new nickname. But he literally said, I do that because it makes me feel good. Because if she's the First Lady, I'm the president. Like, I don't even have anything to say about that, right? It's like he's not, he was never good at thinking about the consequences of actions, but even within a sentence, he's pivoting and not making a lot of sense. And so again, people are looking at him and kind of just going, "Oh my God, what is this guy going to do next?" The problem is, other countries need to pay attention, because even though he's doing a lot of damage, the United States still remains sort of a dominant force. Now, make no mistake, China for sure is taking over. Other countries have decided to start um, trade agreements with each other, just flat out ignoring or not inviting in the United States. So, he's going to add, I don't know, 200% tariffs on something. Maybe it'll be the penguins. I'm not sure. Um, but he doesn't think about the fact that he's not the only game in town and that other countries are able to um, minimize the damage to themselves by forming, sort of groups that operate with each other. Um, and I saw a statistic that said globally, um, the United States apparently only um, has about 13% of global trade. So, but I suspect that what you'll find is other countries have decreasingly smaller amounts. Um, but that's sort of there. So this is the thing. Cognitively, he's not processing very well. Because he's not processing very well, he doesn't understand the impact or the ramifications of the things that come flying out of his mouth. Um, and the people around him, let's take a look at them. How are they doing? Well, you know what? They're just scared. Really, really scared because honestly, some of them don't even know that what they're doing is considered illegal. Okay, let's just start there. But they soon find out that what they're doing is not in compliance. And they recognize that on some level, if he crashes, so do they. And while nobody may be able to get him into a court, but certainly all these other people can get dragged into court. And the people who he surrounds himself with truly have not fared very well when it comes to how the courts view them, sort of after the fact. And again, it's that whatever that is that he has that makes each individual person truly believe that he may do it to everybody else, but I'm safe. He won't do it to me. Well, you know what? Yeah, he's gonna. So that's going on. Um, It seems to me that there's an increase and will continue to be an increased amount of leaking that is coming out of the White House. I think in part, thank you, in part, it's because they want to get some of this information out there so that there will be an uproar, so that it may cause 45 to pivot somehow. And honestly, and part of it is because when all this blows over, they're going to be able to say, well, listen, I was telling the Washington Post or the whoever and the whatever what was going on. So I'm not responsible. It's interesting because um, he went on that riff about Melania's nickname, but she's almost never around him. They're very much leading really, really separate existences. You know, there is such a draining of energy in his energy that on a one-on-one basis, he can't function very well. He's not paying attention. He's not making sense when he does pay attention. And so a lot of the people around him either are humoring him or, like her, they're just distancing themselves. Because, I mean, honestly, at some point, that has to make you crazy, right? I mean, listen, everybody who knows me well knows I do not have the patience of a saint. But if I'm talking to somebody and everything I say to them, um, they're not processing. One of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to lose my cool or I'm going to step away. And that seems to be a lot of what's going on. Right now, I think Trump feels fairly secure. Okay. So, with everything that's going on, and all of us are sitting around going, oh my God, what is it going to take? Well, the reality is that his party is not going to push back. And so, as long as his party is dominant, he really does have sort of free reign. And so, right now, he doesn't feel particularly threatened. So, because he doesn't feel threatened, he's not particularly worried about the things that are going on around him that are shooting at red flags, not only in the United States, but globally, um, because he feels invincible. And again, the more sort of scattered he becomes, um, the more you get this bombastic, bullying, aggressive, retaliatory um, rhetoric coming out of him. One of the things that Spirit would like me to just remind everybody of is that as soon as you start to project forward, what you're dealing with is multiple timelines, right? So there's this potential, there's that potential, there's this other potential. And normally we tap into the one that has the greatest potential, but not always is the one with the greatest potential the one that's actually going to take place. So that's why you have different timelines about when this man is leaving or not leaving office and how or how not he is or isn't, because there's all of these sort of potential timelines. And part of the reason they're saying that is that they want all of us to understand the power of our emotions and our emotional responses. I'm not sure anymore that I remember the actual correct number, but it's something like for every negative thought, it takes like 7 positive thoughts to cancel and replace the negative. I think in some ways simply because there's more negative energy around, and so it's, like it's attracting like all over the place, right? But what they're saying is that when you get really hyper focused on a certain outcome and then it doesn't happen, the emotional whirlwind that you create within yourself because now you feel betrayed or you feel disappointed or you're angry. Hold on, I'm losing my voice here. That then becomes that whole energy mess that needs to be risen above so you can get back to that place where it is positive energy. So there are times where like neutral energy can almost be really helpful or really beneficial because we forget that when we're agitated or angry or scared, that energy just ramps up, right? And it connects with all that same kind of energy. And we forget the power of that because we're so busy being focused on feeling scared or angry or, whatever it is. So they're asking just energetically that people, if you can't stay in the positive, if you can find neutral, it's going to serve you far better in the long run. So instead of saying this is going to happen when, right? This date, this month, this whatever. You are far better off to say something like, I envision a positive outcome, that which is in, people's highest interest be done, and I leave the timing to the universe. It's a far better place to be than they said it would happen and now it hasn't happened, and once again I'm mad and I'm angry. Or he said he wasn't going to do that, or he was going to do that, and then he flip-flops. And now all of a sudden your adrenaline's ramping up, right? Try to remember that angry people feed on angry energy. That's how come it can be very, very effective if somebody's like raging in your face to maintain a really calm and sort of neutral response, because that they can't feed on. They're wanting to get you angry because, like a vampire, they can suck that energy out of you, which is why there's a thing called, an energy vampire, right? So be mindful that, and nobody is saying it's an easy thing to do, okay? It takes work. It takes conscious effort. It takes staying almost like centered. And even though there are areas and places where you can point to and go, I can't even believe this is happening. It's outrageous. Pull back just a little bit and um, recognize that some things have to fall apart so they can be rebuilt better. Remind yourself that there are things going on behind the scenes that none of us can tap into and none of us know about. And just do your level best to just try to stay in that space, right? Where there's like a feeling of being centered. Because one of the things we know is when 45 feels betrayed, he retaliates. He discards you. You no longer exist in his world until maybe you have something he needs, or you're offering something he needs. For those of you who may have missed it, EM signed a contract with China for like $530 billion to create sort of the biggest or the most powerful battery on planet Earth. So, but it's for China's use. So you could imagine that when Trump processes that, he's going to get mad. And as you are always being told, pay attention enough so you know what's going on. But no more than that, because what the world needs now, and all of you who are in my age bracket or older will know, what the world needs now is love, right? Anyways, I digress. Dionne Warwick, I'm pretty sure. But what the world needs is the calming of the energies, because the earth energy is like staticky. It's like firing in all directions, in all ways. And that's part of what's creating the chaos that we all feel, because literally the ground we walk on is vibrating under the stress of all of the insane energy, fear, anger, rage, disappointment, on and on. So as of right now, what I can tell you, thank you, what I can tell you is this: you're not doing very well. How that translates, how they prop him up or don't prop him up, I have no idea. But you can guarantee that every time he's in public, he's going to do or say something that will distract from what is or isn't going on. Think about Puerto Rico, when whatever country or area it was that had that, I think it was a hurricane. And he goes there and he's chucking rolls of paper towel. Well, people were talking about that. They weren't talking about the devastation. They weren't talking about what his government was not prepared to do to help. And no matter what else we think about him, he's a master at that. He is a master at the game of distraction. And so that means all of us have to work just a little bit harder to not be distracted. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your ongoing support. Don't forget to put your questions in the comment section. Until next time, take care and be well. See you soon. Bye bye.